How do? My name is Andrew Hancock and I am a VMware technical architect from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I have worked with VMware since their birth in 1998, so that's been a quarter of a century now. I've been working with the VMware product catalogue. Some of my close friends say if you cut Andy in half, it reads VMware like a stick of rock from Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I have now written over 130 articles and recorded over 30 hours of VMware vSphere 7 and 8 videos for Experts Exchange, and received 40 Expert Exchange awards over the last 11 years working with the Expert Exchange community. I am currently the overall #1 point earner in the Hall of Fame. I am honoured to have been accepted into the VMware vExpert program since 2011, and I'm currently a VMware vExpert Pro for the last 4 years.
Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Welcome back, and in this video today we're going to look at resetting 2 user accounts. We're going to look at resetting the root account for the vCenter server appliance, and we happen to be using vCenter server 8 in the lab. And we're also going to look at resetting the administrator at vSphere.local account. Excuse me. And we'll do both of these accounts in the same session. So before I make any changes to my VMware vCenter server, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a snapshot as usual. We'll get that out of the way. I'm going to log into the VAMI interface, and I'm just basically going to grab a backup. And only this week have we been answering a question on Experts Exchange, where again an Experts Exchange member doesn't really know about VAMI, doesn't really know about the VAMI backups, and has an issue with vCenter server with the database corruption. And at the moment they are a little bit stuck because they are running a complex environment with a Cisco UCS and distributed switches, and currently their vCenter server's down, and unfortunately they've got no mechanism to be able to restore the backup. Okay, so we have a snapshot, and we will have a backup should we be able to restore it if things go wrong. And I've covered how to back up and how to restore in previous videos. I will put those in the description for you. So access, as I've sort of kind of stated before with the ESXi, we shouldn't really leave SSH running all the time. The same applies really with vCenter server. Don't basically have SSH running all the time. So all these are deactivated. So I'm just going to turn on SSH. We're going to use that later. We're going to activate the CUI. I'm going to activate console, and we're going to activate the bash shell as well. And we're going to specify 90 minutes there. Okay, so I've made the changes to our vCenter server. Now, to change the root password, we can just cheat, really. If we're logged in as administrator at vSphere local, and I'm not quite sure whether or not that you remember that you can do this, you can actually use the administrator at vSphere.local account to log into the appliance on 5480, and you've got the lovely option there that says change root password. However, you need to know what the previous root password is. So if you've completely forgotten it, this is for you. So the first thing we need to do really is to check to see where our vCenter server is running, what host is hosting it. And it's currently hosted on ESX002 because we're going to have to shut down and restart vCenter server. So this is a direct connection to our ESXi002 host, and I'm basically just going to hit the ticket that says shut down. So that's actually basically going to give the command to shut down our VMware vCenter server. Then we're going to power it up, but just before it boots, we're going to press E at the grub bootloader, and we're going to make some changes to the grub boot to drop us out basically to the shell. So our VMware vCenter server has now shut down. and I'm now going to basically just press E. Okay, so this probably all looks a bit of gobbledygook and looks really, really scary. But all we're going to do carefully, now I've got some problems this evening really with Bluetooth playing up on this particular PC. So I'm just going to use the cursor key to carefully move to the end of the line there, and I'm just actually going to type RW for read write, followed by INIT equals /bin / bash. And I knew this was going to happen. All those things are because of the Bluetooth issues. Bin bash. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to hit F10 to boot my VMware vCenter server. Now, it's actually basically going to drop out into, we used to call this single user mode, I think, in Unix or Linux years ago. So there we go. So we've been dropped out basically to a root prompt, and I'm now going to basically type unmount followed by / getting my head of myself. So I'm going to do PASSWD, and this is going to ask me for a new password. So enter a new password and document it. So I'm going to just change okay, password has been updated successfully. So I'm now going to type unmount. I'm sure I typed that then. Sorry, it's this damn keyboard again. And the backspace key doesn't seem to want to work either. Oh, okay, let's try that again. Gonna have to sort out this Bluetooth. It's causing me no end of issues. OUNT unmount /. Let's try that again. So to change password, I'm going to power on our VMware vCenter server, and at the Photon boot screen, I'm going to press the letter E to edit the grub bootloader. Now this may look very scary and an awful lot of gobbledygook, but all we're going to do carefully is just add the following to the end of the line, and I'll put all this in the description. So we're going to put in an RW for read write, followed by a space, and then we're going to type init equals bin. Now my apologies, I've got a weird, I've got a weird issue with Bluetooth, and the sensitivity of the keyboard seems to be very, very, very sensitive. So I'm going to try and type very lightly. Okay, so RW space init equals /bin/bash. And we're going to press the F10 key. And what the F10 and what that's now going to do, that's going to drop our vCenter server into like single user mode, root mode. It's not basically going to continue and start running vCenter server. So I'll hit F10, and hopefully, all being good, that's just going to drop us out to a root prompt. And there we go. So now all we're going to type is PASSWD, and basically we're going to specify a new password. So I'm going to trying to remember it, otherwise I'll be doing this again. Okay, so that's it. That's our password changed. So I'm now going to do reboot-F, and I'm now basically just going to wait for our VMware vCenter server to boot up. And when that's completed, which again, VMware vCenter servers, can take between 15 to 30 minutes to completely initialize. I will come back and log in as root using our new password. So VMware vCenter server is not actually initialized yet, but I can actually test to see whether or not it recognizes our new root password. So if I just, I think my mouse cursor has gone again. Yeah, I've got no mouse cursor. Okay, I have another mouse whilst Bluetooth wakes up. So, root, of course my keyboard's gone as well. So, I've got a backup keyboard here which is wired. I've had this problem for months with TP-Link Bluetooth Nano device plugged into this particular machine. And to be honest, really, I am very, very thankful to TP-Link. Despite the fact that this little TP-Link dongle cost about £5, the support that I've actually received trying to get this to function with this particular machine has been absolutely fabulous. So thank you, TP-Link. It's a little bit better. The problem I was actually having was when I warm started the computer, for some strange reason, the Nano Bluetooth device wouldn't initialize. Now it does initialize, but for some strange reason, its stability is, yeah, it comes and goes. So it's not really a lot of good. Anyway, so so I'm back to a normal wired USB keyboard. I'm just running wired. You may just see that it said starting Bluetooth. So Bluetooth's back. Apologies. The crap that I've got to put up with. Okay. And I'm going to type in the password that we changed. And okay, there we go. Now that error failed to connect to service is completely normal because at the moment VMware vCenter server is actually basically starting up. So that's not a surprise at the moment. But that does actually basically show that that little procedure that we use there has successfully changed the root password. So I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to wait for vCenter server to start up. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to log in via VAMI and I'm going to change and show you how to change the administrator at vsphere.local password. So I will be back shortly. Okay, so our VMware vCenter server 8.0.3 has restarted successfully, and we are logged in with the root password that we changed previously. So we're now going to move on, and we're going to reset the vCenter SSO password, or the super user password. commonly known as administrator at vsphere.local. However, the domain, of course, will depend on what you've actually set. I think most people actually basically call it vsphere.local. So we've logged in to the vCenter server appliance via SSH. We've already, remember, we've left it enabled from before. So we want to basically select a shell to launch bash. So I'm just basically going to select shell. Shell access is granted to root. And then we're going to start the VDC admin tool. Okay, so now we want to select option 3. Please enter the account, and that's administrator. I'm going to have to type and get this correct. Administrator at vsphere.local, followed by enter. And it then basically turns around and has changed the password and said new password is. This is why I've actually done this via an SSH session, logged in as root. So I can easily cut and paste the password out into Notepad so that I can record it. If you're doing this from the console, then you're going to have to write it down because you've not easily got access via the console. So before I close my root session to my vCenter server, I'm now going to log out of vCenter server. I thought I'd click log out. I'm just going to do a refresh. Okay, so I'm going to actually see if I can log back in with the usual password that I use, which is, okay, so it's telling me it's invalid credentials already. So it has changed password, so I can just copy that password there. I'm going to paste it there. Okay, there you go. So in summary, in this video, what we've done is I've showed you how to change the root password on a VMware vCenter server appliance by enabling SSH, enabling the DCUI, enabling the shell, and once we've actually basically changed the root password, then we've restarted the server, and we've logged back in with the root password to test it, and then we've actually basically changed the vSphere administrator at vsphere.local password. Now, let's not forget to go back to our VMware appliance and just turn off all those settings. And then one final thing, let's just delete that snapshot. But before I'm going to delete that snapshot, I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to force another backup so that we have a valid backup of our vCenter server. And I have actually basically had to use this in the lab because we had a crash on one of the ESXi hosts, and vCenter server doesn't like crashes, and the actual file system within vCenter server basically got corrupted, and this backup actually basically came in handy basically to restore that vCenter server. Now, we don't have a very complicated lab here, so I could have really just deployed a new vCenter server and then spent some time doing some little configuration afterwards. But again, practice what I preach. Set and forget those vCenter server backups from the VMware appliance, because I'm sure I've read that it's not supported backing up vCenter server using your third-party backup tool. So your mileage is going to vary. Your mileage is definitely going to vary on whether or not that you can actually do a successful restore. And as I've said to you before, that you haven't actually really got backups if you've never actually test restored them. And as you can see, the actual space on our database now, our backup has actually basically doubled. Excuse me. And that's because we've actually basically left the lab running, and ESXi hosts and VMware vCenter server is very, very noisy. So I've got a backup. So final thing to do, now that we're happy that our administrator .local account has been recorded, we've recorded the password, is I'm going to delete the snapshot. So I'm going to have a little look at manage snapshot, and I'm going to say delete all, and I'm going to delete all those snapshots on our vCenter server. And then finally, of course, we're already logged out and we've been kicked out anyway of SSH. So that's really it for this video. Come back for another Hancock's VMware half hour, and we'll have a little look at the questions at Experts Exchange, and we'll cover one of them. But I have got a topic in mind that I'm going to have a little look at. I'll tell you now, a new P2V V2V tool that I'm keen to have a look at. And what we'll do a P2V V2V to Hyper-V. There's an awful lot of discussion at the moment about leaving VMware vSphere because it's become too expensive after the Broadcom takeover. So there's a lot of people asking questions as to what hypervisor should I go to next. And there definitely will be questions after that when they've selected the hypervisor that they're going to go to. The next question is going to be, how do I actually basically copy my virtual machines from VMware vSphere to Hyper-V? So it's not technically a VMware question, or is it a VMware question? Is it a Hyper-V question? I think it probably spans two virtualization products. Previously, I had written about the Microsoft Virtual Machine Converter. That was a product that would actually basically do the lifting of virtual machines from VMware vSphere to Hyper-V, but that product was discontinued a long time ago. So you can't really rely on that, and I'm not quite sure whether or not that you can even find existence of the product today. Anyway, okay, so thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.